So a couple of things about the wedding party were unusual, and a couple were really typical. At first we thought it was a really small wedding party. I mean, that's pretty much it. There's a couple people beyond what's in those photographs, but really it was pretty small. And that's unusual because in Egypt, the wedding is really one of the biggest events that can happen in a person's life. No matter what your economic circumstances are, a wedding is going to be a huge event. If you're really rich, then you'll rent out, a room in a hotel. If you're not, then you might you might block off the street where you live. And everybody in the street will be invited. And in fact, Lorna, before she moved to Egypt, she was walking around one day in a district of Cairo that's very poor. I don't know why they were there because there's not a lot of touristy stuff over there, but she was there with a friend. They were walking around, they saw that there was a wedding happening, and as they were walking by, some people from the wedding saw them and immediately grabbed them, pulled them inside, gave them some tea, sat them down at the high table, and it was a big deal to have these foreigners present at your wedding, and they wanted to be so welcoming, so that everyone is invited. I mean, literally everybody in the country is invited to your wedding. So in the end, we decided that the party was small because it was just an offshoot of the real party, and they had just come to the boat to do a film, just to make the film with the bride and the groom and the dancing. And we realized this after they did not get on the boat. On the typical side, though, everybody in the party was dancing. Dancing and music are parts of Egyptian life in a way that they really aren't in America. They're absolutely essential parts of celebration in Egypt. You wouldn't have a wedding without any dancing. It just wouldn't be considered a wedding. Especially if you can get a professional dancer. It's a special thing. It's almost like a blessing to have a dancer at the wedding. Yeah, so typically everybody will get up and dance at some point in the evening. Maybe not all right away, but everybody will dance. All right. The next slide has some video on it, and I'm going to come and make that work. Hopefully.
Because she knows her mother is technically challenged.
Okay. Hopefully this will work. Oh, where's my mouse? Okay, you might not be able to hear the sound, but just pretend like it's the early days of cinema. Go. Yes. Oh, you can hear the sound. Okay, so there's the bride. I was standing in the back, so clearly I wasn't part of the party, so this guy kept cutting from me. But that's Lorna right there. That's a young lady. We thought maybe she was the sister of the bride or someone, And as you can see, it's perfectly normal and acceptable and a joyous thing for her to dance as part of this celebration. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is, outside of a situation where everyone is celebrating, it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for you to get up and dance in front of people you didn't know. So because she's part of the party, that's fine. She's within the realm of acceptable dancing. But there were other situations where I was or that I saw where people would not get up to dance because it wouldn't have been appropriate. So, yeah. And you can hear people doing some reading in the background. And then the men are dancing as well. It's just, that's normal. That's everyday life. I would say, I'd go to a cafe, and there would be a whole lot of waiters there, and they'd all be really bored because there are always too many people that work in a different place. And then suddenly you look up, and 5 of them would be dancing because there was nothing else for them to do. And so you can see the bride and the groom are in the middle, and everyone's dancing around them, and the bride can't dance at all because she's in a shiny dress. So we have a second film, which is much shorter, and this is Lorna's guests that were visiting. They got pulled into the wedding party to dance as well, and eventually you can see behind them, the guys are now excited because there's these foreign girls dancing, so they're all filming them. In fairness, I was filming them as well, so. appropriateness in dancing, and like I was saying, there are situations where it's appropriate to dance and situations where it's inappropriate to dance. So if you decide to dance in a situation where it's inappropriate, you're actually doing something pretty subversive and pretty rebellious, basically. But if you decide that you're only going to dance in situations where it's appropriate for you to dance, then in that way you can kind of keep your reputation honorable. You can indicate that you're an honorable person, and that's one way for you to use that social norm, you know, or you can work against it. So these are ways in which dance relate to social norms and morals in society. All right, next slide. Okay, so this is Lorna. As I said, the wedding party all went away. We got on the boat and they were on the dock still. So this is Lorna, and I'm going to talk a little about the structure of her shows on the boat and the typical tourist dance circuit in Cairo. So as I said, Lorna's from Scotland. She's lived in Cairo for about 3 years now. She's worked for the Oberoi Pharaoh boats the whole time. She was a huge help with my research. She took me around to a lot of different places, and she introduced me to all kinds of people, and she gets a lot of guests from Britain and America, a lot of whom have read her blog, and then we'll go over because they're interested in dance and they want someone to show them around. So I got to talk to all those people as well, which is really fabulous. And, you know, she's going to have to get partial credit for my PhD because she really did a lot for me. Next slide, please. So the boats that Lorna works on are not the only dinner cruise boats in Cairo. There's about 6 or 7 of them. They're very popular tourist attractions. Usually the way it works is there's a flat fee for dinner and the show, excluding drinks of any kind. Usually this is about $50, so I only went to see Lorna once while I was there. The dinner shows usually have several elements. Like first you'll get on the boat and then you order your food or you pick it up if it's a buffet. But Egyptian cuisine isn't, because it's a tourist attraction, they don't really serve traditional Egyptian cuisine. So the night that we were there, it was like turkey, roast beef, and fish, I think were the choices. So then you get like the limp vegetables that are boiled to death. Very, very exciting. You don't go for the food, that's all I have to say. So then the band comes on, and they'll play by themselves, they'll play one set. And then the dancer, in our case Lorna, will come out and she'll do one set of Oriental, which in Egypt and in Egyptian rock sharki means a single solo improvisational dancer. So in this set, in the Oriental set, she's by herself. She's wearing an Oriental costume. This is a fairly traditional Oriental costume. And there's nobody else on the stage except the musicians. So then she goes off, and then the Tenora dancer comes on. Tenora is a traditional type of dance which is done by a mystical Muslim group called the Mevlevi order. Sometimes they're called whirling dervishes, so you probably have heard of them. So obviously going to see one of those guys perform on a boat is a really different experience from going to, say, one of their retreats and seeing them perform. But, you know, it's a fun thing to see. So, let's see. After the Tenora, Lorna comes back and she does 2 more sets. She does a set with folk dancers. The word for that in Arabic is funun. And she does a Saidi dance. And then she does a drum solo. Then she runs around the boat and does photos with everyone. And then that's it. And usually after that, there's another 2 acts. Let's see. The night we were there, it was a musician and a comedian. So the whole trip takes about 2 hours. You cruise up and down the Nile, and you go back to the dock, and you feel like, oh, I saw everything.